The seventh vulnerability is identification and authentication failures, which is task number 16 inside the module from TryHackMe. I keep confusing TryHackMe with Hack the Box because I'm active on both. So this is a little hint that will, after we finish maybe all the learning paths on TryHackMe, maybe we'll jump in Hack the Box. I have to see because I think you would like to see how to get a certification, and by this I mean the fact that I want to start the certification from zero, and all the learning process and the notes and the labs and stuff like that, including the certification, to be recorded and posted on YouTube. Okay, that being said, we have task number 16, which is part of the WASP Top 10 2021 module from the Complete Beginner Path on TryHackMe. Identification and authentication failure, task 16. Authentication and session management constitutes core components of modern web applications. Authentication allows users to gain access to web applications by verifying their identities. The most common form of authentication is using a username and a password mechanism. A user would enter these credentials and the server would verify them. The server would then provide the user's browsers with a session cookie. So the session cookie basically contains also the settings that you set in order to not always reconfigure them when you visit a website. A session cookie is needed because web servers use HTTPS to communicate, which is stateless. Attaching session cookie means that the server will know who is sending what data. The server can then keep track of users' actions. If an attacker is able to find flaws in an authentication mechanism, they might successfully gain access to other users' accounts. This would allow the attacker to access sensitive data depending on the purpose of the application. Some common flaws of authentication mechanism include the following. Brute force attacks use weak credentials, weak session cookies. So as you can see, weak identification and authentication failures is pretty close-handed with broken access control, which is the first one. I mean, all of these, if you dig a bit, all of these have similarities. Brute force attacks. If a web application uses usernames and passwords, an attacker can try to launch brute force attacks that allow them to guess the username and the password using multiple authentication attempts. With credentials, web applications should set strong password policies. If applications allow users to set passwords such as password1 or common passwords, an attacker can easily guess them and access user accounts. Weak session cookies. Session cookies are how the server keeps track of users. If session cookies contain predictable values, attackers can set their own cookies and access user accounts. There can be various mitigations for broken authentication mechanisms depending on the exact flaw. To avoid password guessing, attackers ensure the application enforces a strong password policy. So a lot of vulnerabilities, and let's say and talk about the concrete top 10 from 2021. The fixes are not hard to implement, are quite easy, but in an application there are so many people involved and so many configurations and teams and deadlines that you will find always you will find something. To avoid brute force attacks, ensure that the application enforces an automatic lockout after a certain number of attempts. This would prevent an attacker from launching more brute force attacks. Implement multi-factor authentication. These two can be also implemented from a firewall. Implement multi-factor authentication. If a user has multiple authentication methods, for example, using a username and a password and receiving a code on the mobile device, it would be difficult for an attacker to get both the password and the code. Yes, awesome. Answer the questions below. I've understood broken authentication mechanisms.